know if this is going to show on both our channels or if it's going to just show on mine. But either way, I'm just excited because this is a new feature. And I just, hey, James, you want to try this out? Let's just do a random. Well, it was a little bit organized, but. Mm,
All good. Hello. What have we got here? Oh, it's Mish. Hi, Mish.
yeah, let's see. Live chat, all messages. Okay, there we are. She said something naughty. It's kind of frustrating. Can't figure out how to reverse it. Anyhow, the birds are singing and the trees are building while the flowers are in bloom. Oh, I love that. For sure, for sure. I have certain birds, certain noises in my yard as well, and I'm like, oh, lights my heart up. Whew. All right. So, because there's so much stuff going on in the world, and we are just curious beings, constantly seeking and expressing being. I don't know if you caught my video yesterday, but pretty much it's funny because I started hearing it in other people's videos where they were talking about similarly something I've always kind of believed with the programming that if you
Yeah.
really consider how magnificent, how amazing, how powerful we really are with our focus, that we
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've talked about the currency of our thoughts is paying for our experience. So where attention goes, energy flows, and you literally are the banker of your frequency. And it's so important to be aware. This is why meditation, why slowing down and just going into the where was my thought just now? What was I thinking? Where am I being as opposed to, you know, getting caught up in the Wedeka, we talk about the past or projecting into the future. And always kind of sensed, but there was a moment with my dad the other day that I'm like, it's not just a sense, it really is what it is. So many people think the movies are predictive programming, but really what they're doing, just like the Bible and all the stories of Revelation and oh, the world is coming to an end, and Nostradamus, their predictions, they created these to harness our attention, to focus it and create it. That's how powerful we are.
Yeah.
And that's the real
Um.
skill, in my opinion, for people who
Well,
are.
yes. Yesterday was a horrible day, shall we say? Oh, not a horrible day, but it was. Let's just say it wasn't the best day. So it's like, right, I need to manifest the f out of today. I need dry weather. I need to turn things round. So I thought, right, what can I gather? So I'm going to various astrology channels, and it's like I can impress those good messages. It's coming from another source. I can pull that in, and I can use that because I could. The mind was like going creating things. It's like no, just put the desire out there and leave it, and let the universe. It is a totally interactive field. It's if I'm on the best one is like the radio analogy. It's like if you're tuned on 88, well, it's talked about attuning in spirituality where you just turn the dial. And now you're on a different frequency and you're getting a totally different broadcast signal coming in. And it's like, yeah, the world hasn't changed, but I feel so much better about it. So it's what's happened in the last few days in Ohio. Now, there's actually something very positive coming out of this because this is going to. I feel that the US public, because the environment is such a big issue, depending on their actions on how they deal with this situation, is going to determine how people are going to. Well, they're being played here. They're going to look for another external savior. Okay, if the government won't save us, and I'm seeing this happen,
Mhm.
they're turning to religion. They're still looking for an external savior, so they're being played, unfortunately. But it's when you're faced with, oh, I've had enough of this. Oh, there's something better that's being offered. They're going to jump. They're going to jump ship.
Mhm.
But it can't really do anything about that as such. But it's a slow process. It will come. It will turn into something really good. We're just about to enter spring. I just listened to Tabitha Cole. She said she heard on the radio. I can't even think of the name of the song, but there was two key words: air and breathe. Well, air is spirit, breathe is life. It was a spiritual message to her. And another a beautiful one the other day. I went to a moon ceremony, and I'm in the car with my friend Serena. And this car has overtaken us, and she said, "Oh, go on, clever clogs." I said, "No, no, 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 no." I said, "This is perfect." I said, they're charging ahead of us. There's a set of traffic lights coming up. They start the sequence, so by the time we get up there, the lights will be green." And sure enough, and this is what Neville Goddard talks about in a lecture called "Even the Wicked." He wants tickets for Aida for his two brothers. They're in New York for I think 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
it's saying in the paper, sold out, sold out. We've got plenty of other shows, and he's like, "No, I create imagination creates reality. I'm getting those tickets." He started in line one. Something's told him to move to line three. The guy in front of him has put two $1 bills instead of two $10 bills. So Neville said, "Excuse me, you've I saw what you've done there." And this guy apparently was huge. He's about 6'4". So Neville's brothers are going, "Wow." It's like you're not giving in to the intimidation of this guy.
Mhm.
So probably what would have happened if that would have carried on, because they're obviously like ticket touts, then going to sell the tickets. And so the guy behind the counter, that would have probably come out his wages, that shortfall. So Neville's gone up to the window. He said, "I'd like two VIP seats, center of the thing for his brothers," and he got just that. So even the wicked played a part in manifesting.
Mhm.
So the thing to always remember is look into the unseen. So if something is presented to you and it's like, "Oh, that's bad," no, 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 like you're held up in traffic. The fact that you're held up in traffic is most likely that had you have had an uninterrupted journey, you may well have been involved in a car accident. But that delay has pulled you out of that potential situation. So we're trying to focus on the what's presented to us in the objective reality and forget about the subjective reality.
Mhm.
But if you can flip the polarity around inside ourselves, then this magical wonder just opens up. so so today it's like, wow, last day of the yeah, I can really feel the difference today. I've just listened to Adrian Elise. There's a shift in I think it was the sun in Pisces. It's shifted to a more positive aspect to it, and I can certainly feel it today.
Mhm.
I've
Mark,
gone from a where I've got a choice. I need to buy milk, I need to buy butter, I need to buy um, laundry detergent. Within an hour, I've got what I needed to be able to buy all three.
well, and interestingly, we talk about this world is about duality. Now, first off, I remember you might, it's so funny. A couple things. First off, it's funny because how many interweavings we have prior to knowing each other and connecting here. We're both on Brian Scott's. I listened to those videos as well, so I heard that story as well. And he's repeated it a few times in different recordings. I love that he does all of those different readings. Like Brian's amazing. He's got a great voice to listen to. So if anybody doesn't know about Brian Scott, definitely check out his channel. Um, the other thing is that this world is duality. So, it's real easy to show and pay attention that if you're in awareness of your own mind, are you focused so much you only see the negative, or do you only see the positive? Can you with that neutrality, like what you just said, where, somebody cuts you off traffic, makes you late, but they actually have prevented you from an accident. I know for myself, times in my life, I've had delays as a result of traffic or something at the house that slowed me down. And then I hit traffic to see there was an accident ahead that could have been me. that could have been me in that accident. So I see how the world unfolds, that there is no good or bad. It's just the unfoldings. It's the how we're navigated and meandering through the stream, the fluidity, again, this is whether it's air, the ether, the plasma, or the liquid. It's all kind of, same. The other thing, I was listening to Autodidactic last night. They had put up a video, and I've spoken about harmonizing the voice and using the sound of your own voice because your mind, your body, soul, your spirit your heart wants to hear the sound. So when you do, and it could be the harmonizing, the humming, this is the way to attune yourself to your own frequency, your vibrations. Like when you're offset, just start humming, just start attuning, making all of these undulations and sounds is what creates the vibration. So we can go out into all the conversations around, the bells and the different churches that were really places of healing because of the sound current, that they didn't want us to know this. They destroyed all of these bells. They took them out of all of these old structures. It's amazing. And what is so funny is when they were speaking, I don't know if they caught on to it, but how many times I heard someone say, need to change the tune of your voice, or you need to change your tone or your tune. And of course we
Mm.
play with the word tune, tone, tune, with double O N. But I was like, yeah, there we go again. And I've always been the advocate of the sound current because since I've been teaching Kundalini so long, that's a huge component of the healing, a huge component of the acknowledging that it's the frequency, that when we are really in tune with ourselves, we're in tune with the universe, we're in tune with the sound, the hum, the beat, the hum, that buzz of the universe when you get really quiet is the sound. So it's quite fascinating, and just the synchronicities are everywhere. You start talking about something and you're on that same frequency of the collective, the pulse, the collective. Like I go, okay, what's the pulse of the collective today? I do my morning practice, and it's like, okay, what I'm receiving, and then I start to hear it with other people, and I'm like, see, we're all in the same wavelength. We're all connected, and it's beautiful. And yeah, I used to be that person who could find what was going wrong. It's like looking for the negative, but I also see where the programming came from too. Like I love my dad. He's a big teddy bear, but I got to keep his focus because it's so easy for him to go in a certain direction. So and you have to notice that in the people around you, that when you say something, are enable that criticism that goes for that, like jugular. That's so nasty. And it's like boom, 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 beating that dead horse. And you're like, oh, shoot, what did I just start? Because we affect each other. So if you're focusing on all the exciting, fun stuff, and you can bring out the play in someone, calm them down with your ability to calm yourself and claim, that's how we affect each other. But if you're somebody who's also caught up in the negative, it makes it easy to people to expound and expand and like really create that other side. Like want things to go. We want the focus and the flow. And so again, you got to set yourself up, set your intention for the beginning of your day in order to walk through the door and go, here I am, world. I'm here to create. I'm co-creating my best life, and bringing in a magnetizing, and again, polarity. You're either repelling or magnetizing. You're drawing to you or you're repelling it. And it's a beautiful dance to play. When you start to
Yeah.
get tuned into it, literally, you start to see the fun in everything.
Oh yeah. Well, here's one example I can give you. Hopefully it will show. I am. Now that's like a pyramid. But
Mm-hmm.
what happens if I put that all together? And I'll just very quickly draw this because I like to have a little play with these things. So if I overlay the whole lot, I've now got the IXXI. I've got the diamond twinkle, like a diamond in the sky. How I wonder what you are, twinkle twinkle little star. That's us. You've also got the cross. You've got the two pillars. You've got the two X's which is basically like the two eyes when they're shut, often shown in cartoons. They're like two X's.
Yeah.
Because, like Yolanda says on True Love Channel, we're in the IXXI Trauma Center. I mean, I even spotted it on this evil angel. Sorry, I mean evangelical church that's doing a Bible reading and a lunch on Sunday. And would you believe it starts at 11:45? I thought, oh, 11:09.
Mm. Well,
I
I also
thought, oh,
frequency in that, right? It might be start, but it's because they're spelling. Um, and another thing, I am. You hear people do the om, and the original om is that om. The I am is in there. So the I am is also the. It's not the word. The words are just how we have mouthed them into some sort of agreed upon. But there's still again the spell thing, but the sound where it comes from the true vibration and truth. That's my belief and my sense of it. So that when we are making sounds, we are attuning more so than the words. They do have the sounds, and that's where, if you've read versus Force by Hawkins, and he has the scale of consciousness. So this is a newer version, but it's the hidden determinants of human behavior. It vibrates at a high vibration as well. And what he did was he used the scales in kinesiology to point out how the different emotions map at different levels.
ah,
There's also a pyramid style version of this as well, that, and he talks about how in order to shift the world, we have to get to a certain vibration. So like anger, and it says it in this book, it vibrates at 150. And that's in the hate, the aggression, the vengeful, antagonistic. And one of the things he says in this book is, at least with anger, it shows you care. So I always try to remind people, when you are lower vibrations, there's only one way up. I mean, you can go down, but essentially anger is moving up the scale in the sense that you care enough to even give it your attention, to get angry about it. And people forget that anger is actually a beautiful sign that you're still, that you're giving it your attention. So whatever it is, it could be the attention to the trauma, whether you realize it or not. But anyway, yeah, this is a really great book, and I thought about that being my next read, but that's gonna be a
excellent. You
yeah.
read the thought of my question, which was going to be, are we going to have a reading of this book? Excellent.
We may need to do just, I was thinking about maybe we need to do like some book do a like a book club, and just everybody join in and do that, because that would be fun. It's nice to do this and to do the videos for it, but I think it would be nice to hear what people get out of it as well. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The feedback is is really good. I had a wonderful one on Monday. I sort of overheard the tail end of a conversation. A friend of mine, his heart's in the right place, but he'd been sort of convinced that this guy is the second coming,
Mm, mm,
saying, "I've seen through it. So it was just a cult." So talking to him later on, I said, "What led you to this?" And he said, "It was something you said got me thinking." I don't know what I said, but it's like, yes, because I can see that he is a really caring, compassionate person. But the problem is, you've got this. Now, if I say to you, say I live sort of within walking distance, I said, "Come on, we're going to go out and paint the town red." Now, I would not expect you to turn up with paintbrushes and tins of red paint. So, but people will, they can't see beyond the superficial level.
mm,
So, for example, when it talks about, I think it's Paul's, it might be Corinthians or Galatians, he describes the subconscious as the woman. So you can see where, because it says the man is dominant over the woman. It's just the way it's been now hijacked and used in the wrong way. And this is being reflected in the astrology. This is the rise of the divine feminine, which is the womb is the creation from the subconscious. So that's that every thought and feeling that I communicate across from this conscious mind, the ever loving wife subconscious is impersonal, and it's like you've got want. Okay, I'll give you more want then. So
Mhm.
this is why it's so important that we catch our thoughts and we communicate the right way within ourselves, and then that this interactive field will respond, because whatever you put out, whatever vibration you're on,
Mhm.
this interactive field will respond with whatever level of energy that you're putting out, or each of us is. And I can say and testify that this works. I did the first time I heard Neville Goddard. It was something I was already doing, going to the end and remembering the future. But I never realised there was actually somebody who'd actually. I couldn't have put it into those words, but he's saying test it for yourself, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I'm not being asked to subscribe to anything. I'm not paying a membership. It's like, well, this is down to me to try. And it's like learning to walk. Start with something small, like picturing finding a feather. You can use the experience of holding a feather. You know what it feels like. You know how heavy it is. You can even go as far as determining what color feather you're going to find if you really want to put detail in.
Mhm.
And then once you've done that a few times, move on to something else, and it becomes really easy after a while. It becomes second nature, just like walking.
For sure, for sure. And then, of
Yeah,
course, when you find it, keep finding it. If you get excited because what's the universe doing? It's responded to your excitement, your state of being. Like so many people, they think the whole law of attraction, that wasn't the full picture. They only gave you the just think about it, use your mind. But the reality is, it's a whole body sensation. It's feeling energy, the frequency, your state of being that also reinforces it from that position of how many times have you been like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And then all of a sudden everything just kept getting better and better and better. And then something at some point kind of clicked and it brought up an old trauma and it kind of knocked you off that a little bit. And you're like, well, what happened? You just got to retrace your steps and see when, where your mind was in the moment. It's so fun. So, yes.
I was asked in a comment, why do I conceptualize as creator and created, master and servant? It's like, well, when I'm at home, I like to spread myself out and relax. So I take what the external world is doing. I can also put caricatures, and I can put a face, as it were, to these emotions. So they then become easier to recognize every time they come up. It's like, oh, here comes Beethoven, the fearsome anger again. it's it's like going to the government with a load of signatures, basically, that's going on inside, because you got to be your own government. So you're
Yeah.
governing your own. So you're sitting in the center, and it's like, well, here comes anger, and he's got a little protest thing, and it's like, I acknowledge what you're saying, but just go and sit down. We're not having a mutiny on the vessel here. It's like, I'm not being triggered by this, because anything. I love the controversial channels where it's like, oh, that's a bit uncomfortable. It's like, well, why am I now feeling uncomfortable? I need to now go inside myself and ask, why am I feeling uncomfortable? It's only words, but
Mm.
obviously words do have power because the way people react to words.
And again, languaging is so again spellcasting. I'll hear people say certain things. I'm like, ooh, ooh, and I don't want to go out and correct people in their language, but every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, consider because like I grew up with a mother who was a total wordsmith, the triple, who was all about focus where you need and want, and she knew this. I mean, I was in grade school, high school. down when stickies first came out. Don't look where you don't want to go. And she crossed out the don't, and it came out as look where you want to go. And I'm like, that's brilliant. And my mom knew all this. Like she was so far ahead and she saw where the world could go. She could get focused on the worst case scenario. And I was the one that came to go, like she the internet, it's a bad thing. I can see where they're going to use this. And I'm over here going,
mm,
I understand where you're coming from. I understand the government and the military is the reason for the internet because that's where I worked. And I also said to her years ago when I first doing more of the social media, I said, but I how we can harness the power of it and utilize it. I mean, we would not be connected across the world without it. So we can't poo poo on it. Like, look at how much it has connected us. And maybe it was in some ways they didn't anticipate the level to the intelligence of which we have spiritually and emotionally, mentally, physically. Like we are such powerful beings that these divine sparks, these inventions, you know, it's the whether it's an intervention coming in or out. It's like we are here to create. So when we see something that is created, it gets us excited to create more. And then when we contribute to it and we become a part of it, that's again collaboration. So the whole power of the internet can be harnessed despite what craziness is going on. We've seen changes, big changes. Like I remember I'm trying to think when it all started, when I started going down that rabbit hole. I'd say 2009 is when I got my Reiki master, and my Reiki master teacher, she's the one that gave me the video, The World According to Monsanto. It was the documentary talking about the seeds and all the stuff and how that was affecting us. And I was like, whoa. And she's like, you need to be aware of this. And I'm like, okay, so, planted the seed of awareness literally. It's not to get upset about things. It's one thing to be aware, but start vibrating and getting all that energy in you, you start being a part of the creating, part of the problem. So it's a very fine line of discernment to where we're not fixated, and that's everything, especially in the world today where you've got so many little distractions to get you into the fear pools, right? They use that to harness our energy to enforce what they want and wherever they want it to go. So it's like the movies. The movies aren't necessarily predictive programming, but you get enough people to watch the same movie. Now it's been embedded into your unconscious and your subconscious. How many people turn on the TV just for noise? Oh, it's just for noise, background noise. And they don't really listen, but their unconscious, their subconscious is taking notes. And then they're having dreams and they're, oh, why I'm having these because you're not being conscious about what you're doing. You're not being intentional around how you're taking in data. We take in through those five senses, and then it affects our physiology, our spirituality, our mentality, all of that. It can either reinforce the dreams we have, or it can actually alter and influence them in a different way. Many of us have dreams of being rich and famous, or wanting the big, mansion, or whatever, Hollywood has cast as spells as that's a sign of success. As women, my breast implants removed after 23 years. It's like, how much influence did I, for years I would tell you, well, I did it because I wanted, the conformed body to fit my clothes. And then I'm like, you know what? I have to own the fact that I was easily influenced by fashion. Yeah, by TV. This is the image of a perfect body on a woman is to have the hourglass. And my mother used to be the one to tell me, get clothes and have them altered to fit you. You don't buy
yeah.
clothes that you have to fit into. And the mind shift everybody needs to work on. Are you adjusting your desires according to what influences you and what's available to you? Or are you making adjustments to make things fit what you desire and want to bring to the world? Are you going along to get along, or are you creating the new where we're at right now?
Well, this is something reflected particularly in men's suits. It was always like called the Sunday best because if you
Mhm.
go back sort of 100 years, those suits were made by a tailor. They were like buying a sports car. So you buy that one suit, that is going to last you for the rest of your life because you can't afford to buy another one of those in a hurry. But now we're in a world where everything is off the shelf, one size fits all, and it doesn't.
Mhm.
Because to me, it's like ridiculous. You've got shirts all just done on the collar size. Well, what about the length of the arms? It's not taking into account any of that, and it to me it's like quite comical. If you've got a shorter man, the jacket's like nearly down to the knees. On someone who's say 6'4", the arms are sort of up there, as it were. But
Mhm.
it's all done on like, chest size or the collar size, and it's like one size fits all. And the irony of it is everybody thinks they're being individual, but they're conforming because somebody else out there has been in that same shop and bought that same tracksuit or sports shirt, and they're all wearing it. Becomes almost like a uniform.
I personally I like unique pieces that are not a lot of them, because to me it's cookie cutter and exactly what you said. It's like you're not you're not getting things for you as much as you are getting things that are available and presented to you. Like, here's the menu, and this is all you got to choose. And this is another lesson I grew up with. Like, my dad had a restaurant, and when we would go into restaurants, my dad would always ask for something that wasn't on the menu because that was the mindset that you're not. And I realized it at the time, but years later, when I was in the Air Force, I had this one friend that guy I dated. We went into a Chinese restaurant when we were over there in the UK in the Jack Molesworth area. And I said, "Do you have such and such?" Because I had a favorite thing that I liked that was Chinese. And he turned to me afterward and he goes, "Why do you have to make things so difficult? Why can't you just choose a menu?" And I realized, wow, it's not that I make it difficult. It's just that some people, they only can see what is available to them because they think that's all there is. The mindset is to go outside of the box and to see how much you can beyond versus, that's a conformity. That is a submissiveness. Okay, well, you're only presenting this, so then there's nothing else for me. And it also shows a lack of worth, and value. And this is where we're at in the world. Like, people wonder why people can see things that they can't see because that's all they see is what they allow themselves to see, what is presented. And then they succumb to, they surrender and allow that to be their reality, as opposed to the dreamer, the way showers. We're over here shaking it up because, like, I see connecting the dots. I see all this stuff because I'm so tuned into myself. I can see it in others too. I can see outside of myself what is in within me. So I see the unlimited potential because I know I've got unlimited potential. The people that don't see the unlimited potential, they feel limited and they don't go within to see that infinite is within. And so that's a big lesson for anyone out there. And especially, so I was going to say that because we just entered the Pisces, like you said earlier, feeling that shift in energy, everything has duality. And so we can see the healthy, what people will say is negative and positive, which is really, you've got your healthy version of Pisces and your unhealthy version of Pisces. You can dive into the escapism of Pisces, the dreamery, like, I'm going to go, escape into drugs or alcohol or some sort of numbing effect, right? But that, in some ways, for some people, that escapism allows them to feel the things they're not willing to feel normally in their natural state. And then there's the healthy side that says, I'm going to dream even bigger and I'm going to produce that, as opposed to go into some underworld that is not my world. Like, be the victim of the circumstances of that, which is a big addiction for a lot of people. And it doesn't even have to be a substance abuse. It could be anything. It could be, going and buying too much stuff or changing yourself extremely and, conforming to something else that you think you want. Again, are you influenced from the outside or from it within? Versus what I see the Pisces, because I've been listening to, so many different versions of astrology. 'Cause I love to hear the different takes, and I'm by no means an astrologer. I just see it as a cast. Me, it's like, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling, and when I listen to something, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's a little bit,
Yeah,
but the Pisces, and I will say from my experience of dating Pisces years ago, they're also little tricksters, jokers. They like to play. Sometimes not always the nicest, and sometimes it's a genuine play. And that's what I remembered about my ex, is that he liked to poke and provoke, but he liked to be playful. And I think that's an admirable quality. So with this time we're in, despite craziness that may feel too serious, it's like, again, said, this is people up in a different way. There is a divine interaction at all times. And so what may feel, oh, this sucks and this overwhelm, it's like there's something beautiful that this, because that is the divine balance. It's the order of life. In the cycles that we go through, for every, extreme over here, we're gonna have the other extreme over here. Like I like to say, if you're willing to open your heart and just go all in, you're also gonna be presented with the gift of pain on the other end at some point, and that's just gonna happen. It's the cycles of the life, and you have to remind yourself to self all of that, because you need to show your willingness to really participate fully in life.
Definitely. Well, there's a very recent event, and thinking of like that classic nuclear bomb explosion, it looks like a brain. Now you've got a black cloud. So that's presenting and giving a big hint to have a brain that's filled with light. But because I've said this before, it's like yin and yang. If you can't see what's being shown one way, look at what this external world is presenting. So lockdown, that's basically saying go within and meditate. That's what it was really saying. It's like it's a champagne cork. It's got a twist in it, but it's still the same piece of wire. Just goes round in a loop. So it's like, so they're showing that. So what are they really guiding humanity with here in their weird sort of distorted way? And it's like, I get what you're saying now. So it opens up a whole new perspective. What you're saying as well about the AUM, well, it's AUM. Well, AU is the symbol for gold, and then you've got the wave of the M. Because I looked at words and letters a long time ago, and it started with you've got there, as in it's theirs, it's over there, and the abbreviated they are, and then that may be a coincidence, but then 10, 100 times with these words, and it's like, hold on a minute, this is no longer a coincidence. There's a well thought out plan to this. And what I find amazing is with the alphabet, you can string all these symbols together in a certain order and call it English. Now you can take those same symbols and you can put it in Spanish, and it's a completely different order, but it gives the same message.
Mhm.
I find that
Yeah.
it's it's phonetic angles of light, basically.
Mhm.
Um, a headstone, and where the sunlight hits it, it will cast shadows and bring out the lettering, and then as it moves to the day, you'll see a different bit of it, and it's expressed in that. And I can't help but think how biscuits have got the same, they're almost like engravings, like headstones. You've also got the wreath on the digestive biscuits, and it's digestive, and it's like maybe that's not the thing to digest. Then it's wheat.
Mm.
Um, there's obviously you can sort of fall into what can I eat because that's got a barcode on it, that's got a barcode on it. But I'm going to live in fear of these things. It's like, oh, we've gone through the E numbers of the 70s, and butter's bad for you. Eat margarine, or eat industrial, whatever. But we're still here. We're pretty indestructible. And I've said this before on video. If it looks like there's this elaborate plan and everything is set against us, the question that must come out of that is, well, what is it inside us for there to be a need to have this plan? So there must be something inside us they don't want us to find. And it is this co-creativity power. I mean, it's a living God. So where would you find a living God? It must be living in all of us.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else it can. But the thing is, it's not an objective thing you can point to and say it's over there. What I find is you see it working, the actions of it. It's subjective, and it the conscious mind can't put this pattern together. You can't plan and think these things. And also, I find if you're sort of going back in and, well, I want to manifest this. This is what I want to manifest, and then you're thinking, I wonder if it'll come this direction. You're now putting doubts into it, so it's like I started doing this last night, and it's like, no, 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 no. It's like you can stop all that creating in the mind, the conscious mind. It's like you put the desire out there, leave it alone. It'll, you know, it will come from past experience. It always comes, and sure enough, yes. And it's like now I feel that gratitude again. So it's a really good day for me.
Awesome. Mish was saying that they're putting bugs in the flour, and I'd known for years that they allow a certain amount of excrement in cereals and flours, and it's like if it's under a certain percentage, they don't have to tell you about it, you know. And because I'm allergic to gluten anyway, I mean, I was guided to eliminate the wheat and the gluten from my diet a long time ago. 2010, I had a huge reaction. I guarantee it had to do with glyphosate, but when it really boils down to it, if you look at the way that it was processed, it was genetically modified, but in that they would say it was regular. It wasn't like it was injected with the stuff like they do now. But back in the days when the farmers would splice and do their normal form, originally wheat was modified to be disease resistant out in the elements. They never
Mm,
considered how hard that would be on our digestive system. And that was back when they started mortars and pestles to actually break it down. Then add to that, you introduce heavy metals and industrial equipment to create all that heavy metal dust. So, whether there's heavy metal in it when it's, in the ground, now you also got this heavy metal cutting into it because people don't think like that. Like, this is how my mind operates. Is like you've got to consider all these elements that are contributing to the issues with our guts and our brains and everything else. And so, there's a book out that talks about brain, and wheat belly. How many people have colitis, IBS, constipation, whether it's from that or the glyphosate has permeated the lining of the stomach. And it doesn't really matter to me what it is. It just shows me that, we get guided way if you listen to your bodies. And then corn was supposed to be not of a high nutritional value to begin with. So corn was never really my favorite of them all. Buck, I love buckwheat. And it's not even a wheat. Funny that it has it in the name. But ultimately, like everything in life, if we tap into the wisdom of our body, we'll navigate. Well, I've eaten this for years. I don't understand. Well, it's cumulative. Everything builds up. And we
yeah.
can say, I can eat anything. Yeah, everything too. And in your youth, you think you're invincible. In reality, if you're not cognizant of what have you been placing in your body, been using it as an amusement park versus a temple, cotton candy at the carnivals when we were younger, or all the sugar makes me so sick thinking about some of the stuff I used to eat. I remember it was, you had money if you could afford to go to McDonald's as opposed to eating at home. I look back now and I think, what a lie that was, because I used to love chicken nuggets. But I do remember when chicken nuggets had actual strips of chicken in them, and every once in a while you get one that was spongy and weird, and I was like, I don't like that chicken nugget. It's just interesting, all these little like, and then you watch a video where the Zionist is talking about McDonald's being the huge supplier, biggest client, their biggest buyer of human meat, and I'm shaking my head, going, "Well, where the heck is that coming from?" Like these people
Mm.
are admitting things to you that I'm not. Is it? Are people paying attention? Are they listening? It's everything's in your face. But again, it's a discernment too, because some of the stuff that's in your face is meant to actually put you in those fear spaces. Some of it is there to disempower you, draw you down in your energy field, and to focus more on that again. And so it comes back to, can you be aware, be in the world and not of it, not actually give it your physiological response, reaction, because it's that reaction forces it. Again, just like when you get excited about something in a good way, it reinforces it. But if you go the opposite end of the pendulum and you're excited in an agitated way, that's the same energy. So it's again, it's being intentional and focusing where you want your currency to feed and pay for your experience. It's so important, powerful, and times we're in, and the message I got for this year was about discernment and trust. And you don't know what whether you if you don't know yourself, you're not going to be able to trust. The other thing was years ago before I did the whole food plant-based life for a while because I had to heal my gut, and I never said I was a vegan. I never adapted to some label because I feel labels limit you. And I also believe a lot of that has been infiltrated in us is the separation and divide with regarding the food. What's wrong with the ancestral way of life that we had before? I mean, people have been, they put this message out that, oh, heart disease is from meat and dairy and all this stuff. Well, you know what? What I personally believe, when they started rating the farmers for milk and dairy, if you really think about that, they know, or they wouldn't be trying to eliminate the real stuff. The real Now everything is pasteurized. You can barely find it unless you go to the source. And the way I see pasteurized, okay, you didn't you may think it's available and it's healthy. Pasteurization is no different than radiation. So think about it. Your food is being irradiated, right? So you're consuming a dead food, a denatured food, and then people are wondering why up in chemo. The irony is that you're feeding yourself the chemo and then you got to go get chemo. That's like a great business plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the people have no clue. They don't connect the dots. They don't see how their food has chemo in it, which means you're getting irradiated from your food, your gut. All of that's permeating. So all these studies and these claims around your food is causing these issues is really because of what they've done to the food. It's not the food itself. The food, back to the original source. I like my real butter, but I can't even find butter that's not pasteurized. Any type of
Yeah.
oil not good for you because it's not the whole food. You're not going to go out and eat 100 olives to equate a small, teaspoon, half a teaspoon of olive oil. Like people
Yeah.
forget. I would say that oils were meant to be utilized for industrial purposes, topical purposes, things like that. But for ingesting it in your body, it coats your stomach like an oil slick.
Yeah.
You can't absorb your food if your body is basically got that slick. It's like if you compare what is it the oil that they use in the car, synthetic, and it coats the inside, so it's supposed to be better. Well, for the car, maybe, but not for the body.
Yeah.
And these are the things that I don't know that a lot of people have gone down those rabbit holes so much that they realize it's been by orchestration, by design. They are coming at us from all these angles. And if you think you can just get away with, well, I'll just eat it, it's okay, I'll be fine. Is it good for you? Are you just accepting and going along again because you want your comfort and you don't want the confrontation, which is the biggest thing for people is not upsetting the apple cart. I don't want to upset everyone around me. Why are you worried about what everybody else feels? What about you? You got to start with you. You do you, and you will inspire the others too. It really has to start from within. And we keep on doing this little game of worrying about everybody else. It just shows our traumas and our fears. Coconut
Yeah.
oil, do avocado. If you're gonna do it flesh. Do it straight up coconut. Do straight up avocado. I'm a huge avocado fan. I eat avocados every day. And it's so good for your skin when your body gets all of the nutrients. As soon as it becomes an oil, it's also rancid. I actually noticed when I was using more coconut oil, the coconut oil was causing loss. Like when I have too much oil in my body, I get like this film across and I can't see clearly. And then I also notice the sluggishness it gives me. But these are the things you have to feel yourself. You have to feel it to really reveal what is going on.
Well, an interesting word is glyphosate. So if we take the capital letter G, it's very like the letter C, but it's got a like a hook bit on the end, and
Mm,
with the logo, definitely got a hook on it.
yeah.
So if we take G to represent Gaia, which is Earth, so we take that off the front of glyphosate. So you've now got a lie, and you sow a fate.
Hmm.
It's telling you in the word, and the other one that I always found ridiculous. It's like, can't people see the word crypt in crypto? And where's it going to? It's going to the crypt. It's
Or
like you're going to end up being out and losing it. And it's like this mining for Bitcoin. It's like, well, it's not even real.
me coming
It's
from
just,
a background, it's always shake my head like, what makes people think this intangible thing is so valuable? Like that part
mm,
there just makes sense to me. The idea that people would really buy into that, and I'm not going to say I haven't invested or anything, but this is how you have to remember they're trying to normalize and convince people to actually give their resources over to something that isn't even going to return. Like, how is it going to return? And the idea of,
yeah,
like, the other thing that really bothered me was the ledger, the digital ledger of track and trace of everything. I'm like, I'm sorry, I never agreed to that one. That takes away the whole system of, like, what's going to happen is people who know how to barter, the poorer people, they've always bartered. That's the smarter way, and that's how we live. Bye, Pam. Thanks for tuning in. But, like, the bartering is the actual exchange and agreement between two people. And nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can dictate that. But they want such a harness and control over us that they really want to move over to this, we can manipulate, because nobody stops to think about the part where, if the grid goes out, electricity goes out, where's your Bitcoin and all. And
the other
it's
one.
we
I
could
could
be
say the other one. Sorry.
no, I was saying where if the digital world were to just be cut off and we couldn't even communicate, how are you
Yeah,
gonna I mean,
it's
money's
it's
not perfect either, but at least it's something we've agreed upon.
it's like everything else. Once it becomes centrally controlled by something, the original idea of like it's a promissory note. It's like, say you've given me 2 loaves of bread, for example, and I haven't got anything I can barter at that particular time. So I'll give you a note and say, right, when these potatoes have come up, I promise to pay you 2 bags of potatoes or something. So on a one-to-one basis, that would work perfectly well as long as both parties obviously are honourable and to that. But it's like Ken Wheeler says, the definition of evil is somebody who insists that they've got to have power over somebody else, and like he says, the very people that are in power are the last people that should have power. It's very true.
Mhm.
The other one I find amusing is a drive-through. It's like, well, what's being driven through? It's like, well, fair enough. If you've got the stomach and the constitution of a seagull, go and eat chicken nuggets all day long because they can pass them through. But this also shows the pattern. You've got the spiritual, and then you've got the material, which turns everything into the physical. So instead of an expanded consciousness, you've now got an expanded waistline because it's not being driven through, it's being stored in the body. And it's not coming out at the same rate it's going in.
Mhm.
And I've only got to look around this area, and it's like morbid, was it obesity personified in mass. And it's like you see them, and they're like struggling to walk and out of breath, and thinking, can you not see what? Go and look in the mirror. Your body is telling you that there's a problem here. But no, go and have another Big Mac or a Burger King or whatever. It's um and it's been made so easy. We've got this thing called Just Eat. You can just pick up your phone, you can order your food online, it'll have it delivered,
Mhm.
and perfect. I mean, you could say that some of this manifestation that has happened, I'm sure there's a whole generation that said, "Oh, I'd love to play computer games all day long and just get food whenever I want it." Well, they've got just what they wanted because their collective consciousness has given them that. And the funny thing is, you've got loads of young men who've answered the call of duty, and they're now fighting for computer and country because it's not going to hurt you. You can just respawn and come back in the game again, which is obviously is a variation on the spiritual, where our eternal spirit will come back into another body to have another experience.
Mhm.
So it's a horrible thought in a way, as Neville Goddard says it, that we play all the parts. So at some point, I may have even burnt you at the stake in a past life. I would have probably been a rapist. I would have been a mass murderer, and the whole lot. We play all the parts.
Mm.
Fortunately, the memory is wiped, so I don't agree that we should have all past life memories because we could have some pretty horrific ones. And it is always be careful what you wish for as well. So would you want to remember a past life where you've been the most evil person? It's like, no, I don't. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I'd rather not know. Um, that that life has been done. This actually came up as well in a conversation earlier. Apparently, there's a known convicted paedophile, and he's been housed right near a school. And I said, you do realise this is all by design. It
Mm.
wants that reaction out of everybody. And I said, ultimately, where do you draw the line? I said, I don't agree with what they've done because it breaks the eternal law that they're doing harm to somebody else, and would they want that done to them? But probably that has been done to them and it's affected their mind.
Mhm.
So where do you draw the line? Do you condemn that one, and then what about the one that did it to them, and the one that, and you end up chasing down this rabbit hole? Where does it end?
Well, and I spoke
I know
yeah.
thing to
Spoke
do,
about
but you have to. A lot of people aren't going to like that, but if we don't forgive, uh, how can we change the world?
Mhm.
Because we're putting out a negative and I'm condemning them. But from a mortal perspective, yeah, some things are horrible. But what about from the grand scheme of things from an immortal perspective? Um, an example of that would be being a young child in the garden. The parents are watching and they're saying, no, don't go over there because there might be stinging nettles or something. To that child, but that can't see the danger, they're thinking horrible parent. So by extension of that, if we are children of the Creator, does that not also apply that we're in a garden and we might be going into danger, so things happen to stop us coming to any real harm?
yeah.
This is why I like to sort of flip the thing and look at it from a different perspective and think, well, hold on a minute, it's not always that clear that it's this or it's that. There's many grey areas in between.
Well, I was speaking about yesterday is exactly that, that people don't want to admit and they don't actually confront that any fetish that you have a lot of times comes from a that you become so attracted to something that would it's almost like you're trying to make up for the the repulsion you have for it. If you really think
Yeah,
about it, full. How many people were abused in a certain way that then they end up acting it out in their life still or have certain sexual, deviances or whatever you want to call them. It doesn't really matter. It's not good or bad. It's just, can you correlate and acknowledge and confront that in yourself? It doesn't make you a bad person, but I think that the more accepting and owning it of it is, it won't own you. It won't run over you. It won't rule over you where we have all these extreme situations of pedophilia and such. And that, yes, whatever happened to that person had to have been taught to them through how it was done to them. And I know that. I know based on my personal past, my own experience and seeing that around me, that the reality is that person was disempowered at one point. And so this is their way to try to regain control in some way, shape, or form. Pedophile, this pedophile has this attraction because it was taught to them, not
Yeah.
not donating or condemning, because the reality is we're all working through a trauma, and it's no good or bad. It's just, it's, again, it goes back to, well, why do bad things happen to good people? And it's like, there you go, trying to project your human belief system on another. You don't trust God enough to just know that there's a reason and a plan behind it. That's a tough, and that's a very controversial subject. And I totally agree with you. There's something behind it, and it's not for you to judge. But what are we doing out here? The majority of people are judging every little thing, projecting onto others their fears, their traumas, and not actually acknowledging that they're using that as a distraction from not dealing with their own shit too. Because
I
that's what we,
think you. I think you said it on. I've said it on video. Hurt people hurt, and
yeah,
that's you can see it. They're projecting out their frustration onto the first. Oh, here's a perfect opportunity. I can let it all out at that person, and it's not really what is the problem. But I'm going to put it out that way because I don't want to admit that it's something inside myself, and
yeah.
it's like, oh,
For
it's
those,
like this place I'm in here. It's a homeless unit, so
mhm,
potentially, well, there's people that have come out of prison. There are people on Valium or heroin or cocaine. There are probably one or two paedophiles in this building, but it's like, well, I'm in a leper colony basically, but they're damaged souls. I can't condemn them. What I can see is their sort of inside tells them they're not happy with this world for whatever reason,
mm,
but they found a quick fix with alcohol or an addiction of some kind. But that's a low vibration, so they're now getting a low vibration response from the universe, which is either going to be overdose or suicide generally, because there's a lot actually leave here in an ambulance never to be seen again. It's so sad.
mm,
The guy that, I think he came out of prison, and I'd had a conversation with him earlier in the same week. This was back in December, and he kept saying about, my father wasn't a grass. He did these 9 murders. He got set up for the 10th one. I'm not having anybody's this anger, this repressed anger.
mm,
So of course, with the alcohol and the things, I had to lock, because it's not a shared kitchen, but in their infinite wisdom, the upstairs flat doesn't have a cooker. They've only got a microwave. So it's like, well, fair enough. I don't mind them using the kitchen. But this guy, when he's like sort of on something, it's like I can't trust him. He could leave the cooker on and the saucepan on the thing with nothing in it, and next thing you'll have a fire brigade out because the smoke detectors are very sensitive, shall we say. So he's decided to kick that door in, and I thought it ain't going to be long before it's this one. It's like this is a really volatile situation here. It's like I know what to do, but it's like just breathe, and that's thanks to you. It's like breathe, deny that reality,
mm.
and I put the thought, go out in the hallway, go out in the hallway, and he did. And next thing, that 8 police have come and taken him away. He's never to be seen of again. But as I'm seeing him being taken away in handcuffs, I actually felt sorry for him
Mm.
because I thought he didn't stand a chance, and that's so sad.
Well, and the other thing being, some of my understanding around things like that is that people try to find their way back into prison because that is
Yeah,
feeling safe and secure and knowing that they got everything they need.
yeah, yeah. They become institutionalized. I've heard story of this with the old workhouses before they had any sort of state benefits, and you
Mm,
got they were classed as inmates on the census. They basically like blacksmiths and people who are either too old or they've been injured and they can't work. They get put into a workhouse, and then some of them became so institutionalized, they worked out routes because they're only allowed to stay for so long in each one. So they'd
Mhm.
worked out routes to go workhouse to workhouse to workhouse. Nothing. This went on into the 1950s in the UK. And the stories come out. I've got a pair of shoes. They might not be matching, but at least I've got a pair of shoes. um, but yeah, that people get used to that becomes their comfort zone, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But they feel, like you say, they feel secure, they feel safe, in, and they find the outside world too difficult to cope with. And to be honest, it's like if you've got a prison record, you've got a stigma. How are you going to get a job anyway? They're condemned because they're judged by everybody else. They may have, you don't know the circumstances. It may have been in self-defense and they've murdered someone. Well, not murdered them, but in the self-defense, the other person has been killed. But and then they've been punished for it, although they're in a way the victim. But it's that fine line. It's like, well, what if they are just a psychopath? Because that's the other thing. Take a character like Hannibal Lecter, highly intelligent, but no empathy, a conscience that's like God in deep freeze, but they've got the brains, and the most psychopathic ones are the most intelligent. Unfortunately, it's like it's a total imbalance. They've got no heart, and they're all mind. I feel it's. I don't know what the answer is to any of that. I really don't. I'll leave that to the universe. It's like that's the other thing. I admit I don't know the answers, so I often do this. It's like I'm asking the universe to solve this one for me because I can't, and I admit that I can't, and it works. It's like wow, I'm seeing what people would say is magic just unfold, and it's beautiful. So I came back out of the town today just full of. It's like as I envisaged it, I'm just full of gratitude for today. So yes, and I got to feed the pigeons. They recognise me. I haven't seen them for about 3 weeks, and as soon as I'm there, within seconds, one of them's come down, and so I get these vegan sausage rolls from the food bank. I don't eat them, so but the pigeons love them. They prefer it to the bread. They're pastry addicts, I think, but I feel they need to eat, and it's beautiful when I get a pigeon land on my arm. I love that. It, that that relationship you can have with animals and birds and things, and build up that trust. It's there's nothing quite like that.
For
That
sure.
is just that's priceless.
I always think of the birds as kind of angelic in the sense that I know for myself, like they talk. I have
Yeah,
kind of a joke around. I don't. I tell me when there's a car ahead when I'm driving my car. There's just so many different ways that they communicate to me in a way that I'm like, that is, if we're attuned and we're really paying attention, we're being present, that nature is also communicating with us as all at all times. Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome, gaining wisdom. Thank you.
I keep
Yeah.
getting the message they fade out before I can read them.
I I have you have to little chat thing, but I have a hard time keeping up with the live comments a lot of times. Then you have to like kind of move them. We have wild parakeets here in my area as well. We have the parakeets here in the Dunedin area, and man, they are like they're like a what's the word? They're like a gang. They are very aggressive and very territorial, as are the blue jays and crows and all the different birds. And so, like, I had the blue jays in my backyard. I'm a red cardinal was hanging out, and I was watching this, and in came the blue jay and squawked it out. And every once in a while, like one of my totems is the crow as well as the osprey, and I love this the osprey makes. They just have a particular noise, but the crow is amazing too, and that one crows are very territorial, and it's just interesting to watch how the birds are like, nope, this is my area. And I love the
So
bats. Tons of
you've had a
bats.
you've had a red cardinal and blue jay, so you've probably been shown red shift, blue shift in that, I should imagine.
That was so long ago. That was back when my roses still were in bloom. Now they died, but yeah, the crow was one for me, and it has a lot to do with the laser focus because they have extremely uh, attentive eyes. You can see so much that we couldn't even imagine.
It's always good as well. I find whenever if you notice anything like that, a sign from nature,
Mm-hmm.
what I call a sign by the day, then if you see a crow, look at the spiritual meaning. Just go through the
Mm-hmm.
first five, get the general, and then what resonates most out of those um, website answers. Always go with the gut feeling. If the one that resonates, that's what it's sort of it's the universe is giving you a sign. I feel by doing that. It's whether we
Yeah,
notice them or not. But again, that comes down to being present again.
yeah.
So
I take a note and I look it up and I read the totem information or the spiritual significance of it. And I actually have, I think I have a book on it. I used to have a book. I don't even know. Books have been all over the place. It's fun because again, it's the universe is always going to show you a sign, and it could be anything. And you can look up what may seem like a dream too. Like use it in the waking life too, because this is kind of a dream anyway.
yeah, well, we're in 2 days, so the conscious days and the unconscious days, and it is all the days. I
Exactly.
I love watching really young children and babies the way their eyes are different. They're like sponges. They're just taking everything in, just watching everything. No judgment, just watching. It's like such a shame that at the expense of having to learn to walk and talk, that you lose that connection you come into the world with. It's such a shame. We need to find a new balance so you can hold that inner child thing and keep it um, in the sort of as we get older, rather than lose it. But of course, we've got a system that is in place, and parental projections and peer reviewing and of how you're supposed to be. Um, I think it was Alan Watts puts it really well. You're free to be anything you want as long as you conform to what this group of people tell you to be can be, and that's acceptable. And it's like, well, where's the freedom gone in this thing? I go with to me, it's a cosmic law. It's would I want that done to me? Well, if I don't want it done to me, why would I want to do it to somebody else? Because I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it. So that's all I need to know about this reality. And
Hmm.
I, but I don't get any real problems because I'm doing my best to sort of keep pushing out an energy that is then going to interact. So I'm not going to see some of the horrors. Well, all the horrors of the world are always somewhere else. They're always over there, and I can't actually go and have a look to verify if it's true or not anyway. And the funny thing is, most of it is coming through screens, so it's not even 3 dimensional. It's now 2 dimensional, so it's really shallow. But at
Hmm.
the same hand, on the same on the other end of the spectrum, we've got this beautiful way of connecting with each other, and finding this sort of spiritual tribe. I mean, but because I had that, there's early signs of telepathy, which obviously the internet and Wi-Fi is based. It's the material version of. So it's like the other week when I sent you that email because I thought you've been quiet for a while. Something's up. It may be you're just picking up on the energies, but something alerted me. It's like I need to email you and find out you're okay.
Hmm.
So, and synchronicities with other channels as well. You both put up videos at about the same time, and it's like, wow, these are interconnected. It's covering the same topic with slightly different words, but it happened with Julia the other day on Simplicity Revealed. I'd put a video out, she put a video out, and I could hear in her one. It's like, well, this is the same message, but just different words. It's like, this is fantastic.
Hmm.
I love the way that happens. that sort of connectivity, sort of through the internet, but not at the same time. That's
Yeah.
just beautiful. And I feel this is early signs of eventually the internet will fall away. We'll have the telepathy back. It's another thing that it's a skill that we've forgotten and lost, but it's still there. It's
Mm-hmm.
what people just call sixth sense, but it's far more than, it's not just a sense. It's that super sensible realm, or using the five senses internally, and then you've got intuition and instinct to back it up. So you've actually got seven internal senses all kicking in, which is greater than the five external.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the universe is definitely all within.
So I always see the sense, your intuition, your telepathy, your psychic to be the higher of the attunement of the five senses, because the more tuned into your five senses, the more heightened that sense. And that's
Yeah,
where it's really been hijacked, because the majority of people are numbed out to their senses. And so being numbed out there numbs them everywhere.
you've also got the prefix to the word. You've got instinct and intuition. So it's internally your own teacher and student. Because one of the things I find, especially in the early days, you go within, the answer's all inside, and it's like, so the conscious mind thinking, well, I don't know everything, because it's thinking from a conscious perspective.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It just comes. It can come in a picture form in the mind, or just a feeling, and it's like, that now. Normally in the shower, the running water seems to have, there's an interaction with and having running water. It really sort of seems to heighten things, even if it's recycled um, system water. It's still working. It's There's a higher power that no matter what they do to the water and what they treat it with, the word treat, it's anything but a treat, but
Right.
however they chemically change it, it's not stopping that higher power from coming through. And the internet as well. Oh, it's an evil thing. It's invented by the military to spy us, but actually there's another side to it as well. And this is a perfect example right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's beautiful. Like just
Yeah. It's interesting because times we're in. I remember when 9 happened, and my high school friend in the Bronx, and I was talking to him about everything that happened, and he said to me, he saw it from his window, but he didn't believe it, so he went to the TV to check. And
not
mine was like, wow. And that opened me up. Wow. That shows how indoctrinated and how programmed we are to not trust what we see with our own eyes, but to
mm,
expect somebody else to tell us what we are seeing. And that's where we're at in the world now, where so many had adopted mindset, this eyesight, that they trust the dictation versus the actual intonation, really, the attunement. And that's where we are, is like waking to, can you see what's theater? Can you see what is not real? Can you discern? Because AI is a whole big part of this. It's been around a lot longer than people realize. To where how many repeat newscasts have there been using this same exact video that came from one place or another time that wasn't even this time? Like, it's all
yeah.
Hollywood, world's a stage. I think back to 3 years ago when we were seeing videos of Italy. Um, was it Where was that first city? And it was the first city in Italy, and then it was New York City, and it was out in China, and they used the same exact hospital video for New York City. Now, I know, having been in Italy, first off, they're not, a lot of the hospitals don't look as clean and everything as in New York. And I was just shaking my head going, wait a minute here. This reminded me of years ago when I met a man who worked with the guy that was doing the, um, some people call them conspiracy stuff, but the reality was is they were using the same actors in every single broadcast. The same people
Well, I
that
have,
were in Paris when that went down were down here in Orlando when that went down, or up in in Colorado when that whole happened, or Columbine, or in the other one. It's like these are all these are all orchestrations to harness your energy and attention. They're all, and then people want to say, no, the body wants significance. But I knew someone. No, probably not. When you traced it out, it was like, well, I kind of knew him by association. So, or I knew someone who knew someone who knew somebody, or it was my friends, brothers, sisters, blah blah blah. It's like that's you just trying to get significance to feel like, oh, look at me. It's attention. It's attention seeking. So many people want to say they're associated with an event so that people will turn to them and go, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And what is that?
mm,
That's acting childhood trauma. That's a stress response. Oh, here's an opportunity for me to bank on this tragedy and make it about me.
that's a Facebook like in the sort of physical world. But what impressed me most about the whole thing was, now from a business perspective, you don't manufacture something because it's going to cost you to manufacture it unless you know you've got a buyer for it. So it just amazes me because 2020 is an expression of clear sight. But
Uh,
not many people seem to have been perplexed by the amount of suddenly perspex on every shop counter, everywhere you go. It's like, well, where did all this perspex suddenly come from? You can't just go down to a DIY store and get that much for these huge, great superstores. And the other thing, and I thought, they're in the wrong business here. Why don't they give up the nursing and just go on Britain's Got Talent? That dancing choreography is perfect. They'd win that. It's like, when did they get time to do that? It's like, oh, where have I seen this before? Oh, I'm in the Civil War. I've just been in a life or death situation. Now the war photographer's come along. I'll just pose against this cannon and look really relaxed. And it's that one war photographer of the American Civil War. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Weren't you building an East West Railroad at the same time? So which is it? In every Wild West film I've seen, you've got these navvies laying sleepers and rails and banging in spikes, but where's this 7th Cavalry that's protecting them from all these savages that are going to scalp them? It's like that doesn't add up. And it's like, I can see what this is. The world is a stage, and continuously we're offered these ridiculous scripts. And it's Hollywood shows you this. If an actor takes a bad script, that's the death of their career. They get slated by the critics. So that's like, the system is showing you the same thing. It's like, well, don't take that script because it's not a very good one.
well,
And
and
you've got to be a discerning actor and say, no, I'm better than that. I'm going to have a starring role. I'm not having a thing in a reality show.
during the time leading up to it was the rise of TikTok. It was also the rise of collecting your data and deleting your accounts. Like, oh, thank you for giving us a whole timeline of your life. We'll take that. Oh, there you are.
Oh, it froze.
That was bizarre. It made, yeah, no, it's not Zoom. We're actually doing this through YouTube. So what they did was they took your data, you're in there like, thank you for giving us your entire life timeline. We'll take that, thank you. And so you got nothing. And we'll act like you did something against community standards, which is bullshit. That's a whole nother conversation. And any bully person who wants to harass you can report you and get away with it, and there's no accountability there. I know because I've lost 2 Facebook accounts, 1 Instagram, a TikTok, because of speaking about my personal life, which is my truth. I'm sorry, that offends someone? If anything that offends someone, that is not the job of somebody else to from. All you did was give people an opportunity to be bullies and get away with it. So But all of this stuff, because my background is IT, I came from those environments where they were learning behavior. As I came out of the military, I was being interviewed for jobs for data collection to learn your behavior, to be able to market to you, so that businesses could sell and advertise to you at the best times of when they knew that you would buy a product based on your past experience and such. And then the jobs that weren't just that, but it was always about the data collection, that you are the commodity, your life, your experiences, everything. That's a harnessing energy in itself. Because then what people don't realize, and I found out the first time I lost my Facebook account, that social media turned into society. And that back in the old days, we're old enough to know that if you were outcast from society, that was like death. Now, this is why we have such a mental health issue right now, is because people, especially the younger generation who have grown up on technology, if you get disabled, deleted, outcast from an or outcast from some social media, now that's your form of death. That's your outcasting from society. And that's where the average person doesn't see the psychology behind all of this was done because of that. Because now it puts you in depression and now you're easier to manipulate. Now you're going to be more censoring of yourself than you would have been if you were being yourself. So now you can't even be truly in your authenticity because you're in fear of being banished and outcast
Yeah.
from society and such. And so that's a huge thing that I started seeing in 2018. The first thing that happened to me was in 2018. Now, my life, I've always found that I feel like the sacrificial, I feel like things happen to me before other people experience them so that I'm aware and I can see it and understand it in another, that I'm here to provide the tools and the support for those through it. Where we're at now, we're on that tipping point. We have a lot of people who are breaking. I mean, obviously, with every ailments of all these coincidental fires and such. We got two here in Florida. We got the one up there. We got one over in, was it Georgia, South Carolina, Arizona? We all got, there's something somewhere, everywhere. Designed, and it's all, pay attention. Don't like you're, oh gosh, I'm all confused. The pay no attention to the man behind the counter. The Wizard of Oz is in full action. And it's
Yeah.
so sloppy that the average person is starting to step back and go, this smells fishy. This is just weird. This doesn't make sense. This is not, it really is a war upon humanity. And now it's physically happening, but people don't want to admit that because that's the cognitive dissonance of, no, they wouldn't do that. You're still in that denial. The moment you acknowledge it and see it for what it is, now you're going to be liberated and free to actually act upon it. But the average person is the fear of, I don't want to change my, and that's again the cycles of life, grieving process of, I have to make a change in my life because there's major stuff happening around me. If I don't make the choice to change, it'll be done for me.
Well, it comes down to asking questions, which is as king quest I on. And you get told something, it's for health and safety reasons, it's for um, security reasons. So that's not an answer. It's, well, whose health and safety, whose security,
Who benefits from
and who is actually probably the answer. Um, the other one I've said, you can look in the mirror and you can say, who am I? And the reflection will come back with, I am who. But the mirror that's between the two will say, I who am.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. It, I've noticed this, that people are getting these answers, but they're not getting the answer to their question, but they're happy with it because, oh, yeah, okay. But no, that's the superficial thing. It's like you need to go a bit deeper. It's like, well, like with the health and safety, well, whose health and whose safety are we really talking about? And community standards. Well, whose community? It's assumed it's our community. What if it's the community of the provider of the thing that you have to sign up and agree to the terms and conditions?
Exactly.
Terms is a length of time. That's what we have here, where we have conditions. We have a condition like a reasonably good environment. It's not too cold, not too hot, in
Mhm.
which to live. So we've got terms and conditions in this reality anyway, but they've just moved it slightly. I've noticed this with the imagination creates reality, where you deny the external and you overwrite it by turning the senses inward, and it has this magical process. But now you have this thing called gender fluidity. So now you take something physical and you deny the physical with the physical, so you can identify as a cat or something. This happened in England apparently, where the school has had to put litter trays down because so many people are identifying as cats. It's like, well, if you're going to identify as a cat, come school lunchtime, you're going to get a tin of cat food, and it's going to be put on a saucer on the floor. Then, if you want to be a cat then. But you're going to do the whole thing.
Mhm.
it's just it's just gone. There's a certain level of insanity to it all. It's like, well, I don't mind if somebody wants to pretend to be a cat. That's fine, but they ain't getting a litter tray.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't encourage that. I can already see that going south real quick. I think of and that's been known to happen too. People scratching and doing grounds. But yeah. James, we have been going for an hour and a half. And
Oh, it's amazing.
sad about time, but I say thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this. We will do this again. This
That's
is
been beautiful.
yes,
You're shining as well. So you're
it's
glowing.
perfect. So have a blessed day to you and everyone
And
else
you
and know that there's more to come. But the most important thing, be where you're at and just be more and in your own truth so that you can recognize it in yourself around you and those around you. All right. From my heart, mwah! Lots of love.
thank you, viewers as well. I can't. I know it's Mish and is it Pamela? I didn't see all the. It goes too quick.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Bye.